All right, hey everybody. So today we're going to continue working on Suling, and we're going to learn how to apply the Cengkok, the patterns that we learned last week, to Ketawang Puspawarna. So, first thing that we need to know is when exactly do I play the Suling? When does the Suling actually join? So, there are a few different situations. The first rule is pretty simple. So, when I look at one line of musical notation, I've got 4 gotro, right? And we're going to call these gotro odd and even. So the first one and the third one are odd. The second one and the fourth one are even. Now these even ones are stronger. So in general, for whatever piece we're playing, the Suling is going to play only for the even gotro. So we're going to be playing in gotro 2 and gotro 4. Yeah? Now, how do I know what to play for both of those? Well, I'm going to be looking at the final note of each of those gotro. So if you remember, the last note for each gotro is called a kesalahan. Yeah, that's our goal tone. So we're going to be playing the pattern that we learned last week, moving towards that particular kesalahan. So if we look in the ompa, we have 2 different kesalahan. We have kesalahan chi and we have kesalahan nam. Yeah, kesalahan 1 and kesalahan 6. Now, the other situation in which the Suling is going to play is whenever we have a gantongan pattern. Gantongan means hanging, right? Now this pattern is used in a couple different situations. Usually it's used for a gotro that just has repeated tones. So for example, if my gotro is just all 5s, all mo, then I'll need to play something to fill in that gotro, regardless of whether it's odd or whether it's even. If my gotro is all 3s, same thing. I'll need to play to fill in that gotro. And the other situation in which we need to add a little bit of a pattern is to signal that we are moving to a different section of the piece, particularly if we are going from the ompa to the ngele. All right? Now, that brings me to the next thing. How do we know what variation to play? Yeah? Last week, we learned a couple of different variations on that very beginning line. Yeah? So you remember the first way that we learned it was lo, 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 ra, chi, lo, ma, ra, lo, ti, ra. Like that. And then we also learned a variation that started a little bit differently. It started with nam, chi, ra, chi, lo. All right. So the one that starts with nam, chi, ra, that's used generally when we're in a lower register. Yeah? Now, if we're moving to a higher register, then we play the one starting just with lo, 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 ra, chi. Just like that, directly. Now, how do we know if we're in lower or higher register? Obviously, if you see notes in the balongan with lots of dots up above, we know right away, okay, that's a higher register. But if I don't, sometimes it's not as clear. So one thing that we need to know is that the ompa is typically in lower register, whereas the ngele often at least starts in a higher register. Now, ngele itself actually comes from the word chile. So chile, that actually means small, and small is often used as a replacement for high or high in register, because the keys for a higher note would be smaller keys, right? So when we say ngele as the second section, that means we're moving towards a higher register. So in general, during the ompa, I'm going to be playing lower, and then as I go towards the ngele, I'm going to be playing more and more high register. And likewise, as I come back around to the ompa, I'll move back into lower register once again. So now let's look at the piece and jump straight into playing. Yeah? So Ketawang Puspawarna begins in Irama 1, Irama Tanggong. While we're in Irama 1, the Suling is not going to play at all. we're just going to wait until the piece is slow enough, until it slows down into irama 2 or irama dados. Now, for Ketawang Puspawarna, it slows down right away after that first gong. Yeah? So we're going to be slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And by the time we get to that fourth gotro, the gotro going to gong, we're actually already going to be in irama dados. So the first pattern that we're going to play in the entire piece is going towards that gong once we're in irama dados. And we're going to play salah nam, and we're going to be playing the lower variation. So we're going to be starting from nam chi ro chi lo 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 ro chi lo mo ro chi ro nam 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 chi nam mo chi nam nam nam. So let's try that. All right, after that salah nam, we're going to come back and we're going to repeat the ompa one time, yeah? So the next pattern we have to play is going to salah chi. And again, this is low register. So that is going to start from nam chi ro chi lo 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 ro chi lo mo ro chi lo ro nam 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 chi nam mo ro chi. So let's try that one out. Okay, so the next thing that we've got to do is we've got to indicate that we are moving towards the ngale, right? That we are going to gong nam, but this time it's high in register. Ngale is going to be starting from that high 6, yeah? So we've got to give a little extra signal that we're going there. Now, this can either happen before or after we play our normal salah nam pattern. But the important thing is that there's something there to indicate. Typically, I like to play it before I actually do the chenkok, yeah? So, what that pattern is going to look like. This is a very short one that we didn't actually learn last time. So, it's going to go something like this. Nam rolo ma ma nam, and that's a lowered ma, yeah, there at the top. So nam rolo ma ma nam, and that lowered ma I'm going to play just by taking my normal ma. I have to play first and then close one extra hole, yeah, just close that hole right there. So I'll have, as we're getting to that ma, and then for num, just remember, blow harder. And I can add an ornament just by lifting my finger slightly. So the whole thing is. All right, and now we are into the ngale. Now, looking at that first line of the ngale, you notice we have a lot of numbers in the balongan with dots up above, meaning we are in high register, right? So, the very first one that we're going to play is going to that salah chi, salah 1, yeah? But this time in high register. So starting directly from lo 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 ro chi lo mo ro chi lo ro nam 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 chi nam mo ro chi. Same thing again. And then after that, we are going to gong lu. Now this one is actually moving again towards the lower register, but because it starts in the higher register, it's better generally to start again from that high lu, that high 3. So lu 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 ro chi lu mo ro lu chi ro nam 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 chi namo lu namo lu namo lu. Yeah, just like we did last week. So for that one, and after this, as you can see, all of our sele are exactly the same as they were in the ompa. So all we have is we have lo chi, lo num, lo chi, and lo num. And then we're back to the ompa. And all you've got to do is repeat that entire thing over and over again. Now, if you get a little bit bored of just playing the same one over and over again, it's always possible to introduce variations. For example, that high chi at the beginning of the ngale, it's totally possible to use a different variation from patet, slendro songo. So this piece is in slendro manyuro, but we can actually borrow a similar pattern from slendro songo. And this one starts really high, yeah? So this one goes like this. So that's lu mo nam mo chi nam mo ro lu chi ro. And everything after that is exactly the same. So one more time. So basically play around with that, and anytime you want you can add in variations. You can change the ornamentation using the different patterns that we worked on last week as well as the week before. For example, the lu 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 ro chi lu mo ro, that lu mo ro, that we can do lu. That pattern, that's totally optional, so we can include that sometimes, we can leave that out sometimes. It's totally flexible. Now, the last thing to go over before we finish this, and before we actually listen to what it sounds like and try and play along with Ketawang Puspawarna, is exactly where do we place these things? Because I'm sure you've noticed as we've been practicing it that the tempo is really flexible, right? We're playing these things at different speeds. There's no really exact rhythm to it. And that's how it's supposed to be. The Suling is really loose and has a lot of rhythmic flexibility. The most important thing is that the Suling should be a little bit behind the balongan. So generally we're playing what is called molor. So molor means we are landing after the balongan actually reaches there. So it's really important to not start too early. And if you do happen to start too early, just take some time, hang out on one particular note, add some ornamentation so that you can make sure you're actually arriving there after the balongan gets there. And it can be quite a bit after. It doesn't need to be right away. It can even be a whole 2 balongan notes late, and that's still fine. The important thing is don't get there before the balongan gets there. All right, so first let's take a look at Ketawang Puspawarna with the Changkok that we have already learned.